And the truth is, the Marxists, the radicals, and the Islamists, the Democratic Party promoted this weekend, they cannot handle the truth. The truth is that there is a king, and that king is Jesus. And the president has been willing to say it. His administration has been willing to say it. And Charlie Kirk was willing to say it, and he got killed for it.
It's Ken Harbaugh with the Midas Touch Network. It used to be that the Republican Party, especially its leaders, made at least some effort to conceal their Christian nationalism. They left the overt fundamentalism to others. But here we have Mike Johnson, third in line for the presidency, who you may remember called himself America's Moses during his bid for the speakership. He's right behind Chip Roy, nodding in agreement at the condemnation of the massive and patriotic No Kings protests. And then Chip Roy says the quiet part out loud, reminding all of us that today's Republican Party is committed not to a pluralistic society that respects all, regardless of their faith, but sees the entirety of America beholden to their king, Jesus Christ. That is the truth they expect every American to accept. And that is the definition of Christian nationalism. I spoke with Jennie Gage about the rising tide of Christian nationalism and how it is intimately connected to white supremacism. Jennie is the host of Life Take Two, where she talks about her journey leaving MAGA, about what it cost her, and about the new life she found on the other side. It's a deeply insightful conversation with someone who spent decades immersed in extremism. I learned so much from Jennie. I know you will too. Here's our conversation. Welcome to the Ken Harbaugh Show. My guest today is Jennie Gage, host of Life Take Two, where she talks about rediscovering herself after escaping MAGA and its culture of white supremacy. She's had a couple really powerful and viral testimonials lately about that journey. Jennie, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you so much. It's an honor to dialogue with you this morning. Thanks, Ken.
You have described yourself, and it really hits hard just listening to the words come out of your mouth. You've described yourself as a former white supremacist. Can you explain that before we get into the journey?
Before I answer that, I want to just say that the first time I ever said those words were out loud on my own YouTube channel. And if you had asked me a year or two ago, hey, Jennie, were you a white supremacist? I would have said, oh, no. That's just the way that God is. That's doctrine. That's the Bible. I'm not white supremacist. That's the way the world works, is white people are better than everybody else. And it was as I was sharing my journey out of MAGA, which ironically, I didn't think that anyone would care about. One day I just had some footage on my camera of going to a Democratic town hall with Gabby Giffords and Mark Kellen and everybody. And I was like, oh, I should do something with this for my YouTube. So I did a little video, had no idea that anybody cared that anyone was leaving MAGA. And a couple days later, I said, and by the way, I was a white supremacist, and here's my Confederate flags, and here's some of the posts that I had on my Facebook. And it was really hard to look in that mirror for the first time ever, because it's not something that I had thought about.
I think a lot of people find themselves in that situation where it's the environment, it's the expectation. It's not reflective of really their heart or their values, but you're brought up in a culture. And look, I spent my formative years in Alabama. The Confederate flag was everywhere. And, you were kind of weird if you didn't have a Confederate flag keychain next to the bottle opener and the box cutter, right? It was just part of the culture, but it infuses how you think about other people. And
it infused the way I thought and behaved every day.
Yeah. Can you give us examples of how that environment shapes the way you think about people who aren't part of that in-group?
So the teachings of the evangelical church around white supremacy, Christian nationalism, superiority in general, like I think that religious superiority, religious supremacy is in some ways, just because of the numbers, a bigger problem even than white supremacy. The Christian God is the almighty God in the universe, and the atheists and the Buddhists and everybody else, they're out. Faithism, religious superiority, is a huge problem too that nobody talks about. But this has always been there. We've just been having these conversations at the dinner tables. I have spent the past 6.5 years on social media. I have 500,000 followers talking about the things that I've heard at the dinner tables. And I always wish that I could just record. I'm sitting down at Thanksgiving dinner, and uncles are saying that trans people would rather have sex with monkeys or their poodle than just be a normal person. I'm hearing them make racist comments, saying horrible things, using slurs and slang that the normal people out there, like, you'd be shocked if you heard it. But they know who their audience is, and they know that it's safe and it's okay to think these things and say these things at the Thanksgiving table, at Sunday dinner, when they're just riding in a car with each other. What's happening, and I always wish I could record that, right? But one secret recording of one of my family members sitting down at the dinner table, and I'm getting sued for the rest of my life. So it's easier to talk about when people post things publicly. You know, Pete Hegseth gets up and he says that publicly, then I can dialogue about it. What's happening right now is that, you know, if all of my teenagers say cuss words in front of mommy, then they're like, oh, we can do this, right? Everybody's saying it. So now we're just hearing the quiet power out loud. But Ken, it has always been there. This isn't new. They're just being open with it now.
Hey everyone, it's Ken. Quick break here to say thanks for watching, and a huge shout out to everyone who supported my most recent reporting trip to Ukraine. I hope you followed the updates on Substack. I reported from Chernobyl, from Kyiv and Odessa, and from frontline positions alongside some of the bravest people I have ever met. If you haven't yet signed up for my Substack, please check it out. It's free to join. The link's below. Thanks. What was your epiphanous moment? When did you realize that there was a real truth out there beyond it?
My whole life, I was used to hating people, but hating the right people, right? And just learning about how bad gay people were. And then I I made friends because I was part of a multi-level marketing company. I was a trad wife, so I'd never had a job, but every Mormon mommy has to have something she's doing on the side. And a woman in my downline signed up some lesbians. And as I made friends up close and personal with 3 different lesbian couples, they were the kindest, sweetest, most beautiful person in the world. And it's an interesting thing when you get up close and personal to the boogeymen and realize, oh shit, like everything that I thought, that they're under the influence of Satan, that they're possessed, that they're just wallowing in darkness. I was able to compare and contrast just as I'd have these women over to my class and we were learning about all of the products and stuff on a regular basis, and then got to be real life friends. I was able to compare and contrast how they behaved and how kind and compassionate they were to, like, my bishop or my husband or everyone in my family and every Mormon that I knew, because I lived in a very insular community. Everyone was Mormon and conservative, and if they weren't Mormon, they were evangelical or Baptist or something else. And I made that little connection and I made that friendship, and I just stored that away, right? I never thought about it. And then in 2018, one day, I went to church fully believing in everything. I was a hateful, racist, white supremacist. You know, I loved Trump, wearing all the Trump t-shirts and just thinking I was better than everyone. And we had a lesson that day, and the lesson was entitled The Evils of Homosexuality. And it was this little 23-year-old girl teaching us how horrible gay people were. And that was the first time in my life that I had felt internally that hatred. And because I was seeing a therapist for the first time ever, because of marital problems, I was able to look at that and think, wow, do I like the way I'm feeling? What's causing this? Well, this lesson. And I had this thought right there in that moment, sitting in this little chair in a church in Gilbert, Arizona. I thought, I come to church every day. Like, I spend all this time doing my hair and getting dressed so I can learn how to love people better. I'm good at hating people. I don't need to come to church to learn one more person to hate. And I very publicly left. I raised my hand and I said, I can't believe that all of you guys are okay sitting here listening to this. I'm leaving, and I'm not just like going out to go to the bathroom. I'm leaving the church forever. I didn't have a plan at that point. It was all just raw, like reactive little moment there. I grabbed my purse. I went out in the hallway. I texted my now ex-husband, and we stood there by the drinking fountain. And it's just like, I can't believe how horrible this is. Do we want our kids to just hate everybody? Like, do we want to raise our kids like this? No, you don't want it. Okay, go get the kids. Let's leave. We left. I've never been back to the church again. It was seeing the hatred and feeling it and no longer wanting to participate in it.
How do you think about the role of the more open-minded churches and faith communities, because I mean, we have to acknowledge that there are Mormons who don't believe that. There are, I'm from a Catholic family. There are Catholics who don't believe the more prejudicial teachings of the church. There are evangelicals who are at the forefront, actually, of pushing back against MAGA and Trumpism. And there has to be a way to understand their contribution to the larger project of resisting authoritarianism and Christian nationalism and white supremacy, even though their context might be one that you're, because of your experience and your history, you're viscerally opposed to. Do you still have Mormon friends who don't believe those things and who you still count as friends?
Most of my Mormon circle, all of my friends, I haven't seen my mom since I left the Mormon church. Most of my Mormon
Wow.
family, just because of doctrines, and they were afraid that I was contagious, I was going to compromise. So most of my Mormon friends have abandoned me. I don't have most of them in my life, but I do have some new Mormon friends. And I'm, my partner is a Christian, and I do have a lot of evangelicals and people like that in my life. And that's such a great question. As an atheist, I'm frankly tired of being the one who's scrutinizing and shining light on the religious community that I'm no longer part of. I wish that the the evangelical pastors who don't think that this is okay, I wish that they were grabbing their microphones and that they were pushing back and speaking loudly. I think that they actually have a crucial role. And for me, I don't look at, is somebody, is religion good or bad? Religion has good or bad in it. The religious community that I came from, it had the capacity to be very good, but it was doing terrible things at the time that I grew up. I think, Ken, that it's time that everybody stops enabling this horrible undercurrent of society that has the potential to drag us down as a nation. I think it's time for everyone to draw the lines in the sand. And it doesn't matter if you're Buddhist or atheist or ex-Mormon or current evangelical, Catholic, LDS. It's time for everyone to stand up. And that's one thing that people within this community are really bad at doing. I was terrible at doing it. I was following the prophet. I was following Jesus. And if we were all Christians together, if I saw that cross necklace or the CTR ring or the BYU hat, then you were family. And it's really hard to call out your own family. It's actually crucial right now for the survival of our nation, for those people who are part of Christian communities to stand up and call out the brothers and sisters that are misbehaving.
Well, thank you so much, Jennie, for sharing. Where can people learn more about Life Take Two and your journey?
Sure. I'm primarily on YouTube right now. So I'm over at Life Take Two on YouTube. I have some incredible guests from time to time, like Robert Arnold, an author. I have senators. I just had Chris Volpe, who's running for J.D. Vance's vacated Senate seat. So I try to bring people on to dialogue about what's going on in America. And I have a documentary coming out that I'm part of on the Canadian broadcast system this October 22nd. So if you're up in Canada, watch for the CBC. It's going to be amazing. I'll have all that information on my YouTube. So that's my primary hub. I'm also on Substack as Life Take Two, and the series that I'm working on is Churchified, where I share the dangers of religion and the impact that it had in my life.
We'll put links down in the show notes. Jennie, let's stay in touch. Thanks.
Thanks so much, Ken.